Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and we are here in the Institute. We're going to talk about Dr. Brian Virgil today for our Wasteland biographies, because we've been talking about FEV and about the Super Mutants and their various iterations over the course of the different games. So we're here in the FEV lab, which is the secret bit that's all been locked up and shoved away in a corner so that nobody remembers it exists, essentially. Except for these two guys who are kind of stuck here forever, I guess, until we blow the Institute up, if that's what we choose to do. So Brian Virgil takes the prize for being the only person that has managed to develop any kind of a cure for the condition of being a super mutant. He was an institute scientist. He worked in the biosciences division and here in the FEV programme, and he took over leadership in 2286 in April after the previous lead scientist died. And Brian very quickly picked up on a lot of the problems with this project and with the research that was getting done here. We'll talk about the actual science side of it on Saturday, but I think it's very interesting to see how Brian feels about his role and about what's been going on. So we can take a look here at the terminal and see some interesting little progress reports from this research division. So the first one that we've got here is 10th of July 2277, so it's 10 years ago, by C. Syverson. So, latest round of testing complete. Results are all within expected parameters. Informed Dr. Zimmer directly, as he had ordered the test personally. He seemed annoyed with the results, unsure what he was looking for. He declined to specify why he wanted the test run to begin with. So, it's an interesting name that Dr. Zimmer has shown up. So this must have been just really before he left to travel to the capital Wasteland to find the missing courser at Rivet City. So Dr. Zimmer, who, if you remember, works in the Synth Retention Bureau, he wanted some tests done with the FEV and apparently didn't like the results, but he never really said what he wanted to achieve or what he wanted to learn from this testing and how it might be relevant to what he was doing. So a bit of an odd one. And then, 9 years later, Brian comes back. So this is when he took over, so it's 10th of April 2286, so 9 years later, near enough, by Virgil B. I have officially assumed the lead role on the project after Dr. Syverson's passing. Latest round of subjects show results similar to previous test runs over the last 5 years. No statistical deviation noted. Synthetic organics continue to perform well. The necessity of further tests is unexplained. So he is saying there's no statistical deviation, which I know some people struggle with statistics, especially when it comes to scientific statistics and how we decide what's relevant and things. It is quite complicated, but no statistical deviation means that basically we're learning nothing new, everything's just the same as it was before. But the last part of this entry is kind of interesting because he says synthetic organics continue to perform well, and we do know that the Gen 3 synths were created using both Sean's DNA, and the FEV virus was involved in the creation of these synths as well. So he's starting to say, I don't really understand why we need to keep doing these tests. It's not telling us anything new. We're not gaining anything from it. Why are we still doing this? And then we go into the next entry, which is about a year later. So this is in February of 2287, which is the year that Fallout 3 set in, and nothing new, always the same. I've entered formal complaint with the Directorate. These tests are not bringing in any valuable information. The organics project was spun off decades ago. Why do we insist on continuing this? So now he's just been like, what is the point? Why are we doing this? I don't understand why we're continuing to do this. I think it's kind of interesting. So he sent in a complaint which achieved nothing. So he then concludes that something more drastic needs to be done. And you can see the final entry here has been redacted. Director override AZ99. All inquiries about this project should now go straight to the director. The lab will be offline until further notice. So Sean/father has just come in and basically like, nope, we're shutting it down, no questions. If you want to ask questions, come to me so that I can lie to you about what really happened, I guess. That's kind of the point of that. So very, very interesting. But we do know what Brian did because he has left a little note here separately. So that gives us a wee bit of an interesting insight into exactly what Brian was thinking. So I think, you know, having that entry being redacted and the lab shut down, what is Sean actually trying to hide here? Is it just because one of his scientists has gone rogue? You know, or is it because he doesn't want people asking questions? But he's clearly trying to hide something. But we'll have a listen to this little holotape.
Personal record, Dr. Brian Virgil. This will likely be my last recording. My requests to shut down the FEV program have repeatedly been denied. We've learned nothing useful in the last 10 years. Why does Father insist on continuing it? If he won't see reason, then I have to take matters into my own hands. What we're doing, it's not right. It needs to stop. If anyone should find this after I'm gone, know that I never wanted to hurt anyone. Anyone! Do you understand me? I'm gonna make sure the whole program is shut down. If not for good, then at least for years to come. After that, I know what I'm about to do will be seen as a betrayal. Treason, he'll probably call it. So, I'm leaving. I have a plan, and if it works, I'll be somewhere safe. Somewhere not even the coursers can find me. Everything that we've done, the lives we've taken. If there is a God, may he have mercy on us all.
Here we go. So, yep, Brian here has had a crisis of conscience and grown a bit of a backbone. He says, no, enough's enough, this is pointless. And he is having some regrets about the potential harm that has been caused by this program, which is, you know, creating aggressive, powerful mutants and dumping them on the surface so that they can just run around and kill people, which is, you know, kind of has a point that maybe that's not an ethical thing to do. But there's literally no explanation for why this was allowed to happen and continue to happen. So they'd already kind of got what they needed for the synth program a long time ago. So why were they continuing to just keep creating super mutants and pumping them out and then just dumping them in the wasteland? They had to know fine well that these mutants were going around and killing people and kidnapping people and things. So it's definitely a big question mark there. So he does do something suitably drastic, which means that he runs off to hide in a cave in the glowing sea. The Institute did know that that's where he went, and they assigned Kellogg the task of tracking him down. We kind of get in the way of that by eliminating Kellogg. So, you know, then when you mention it to the lady at the memory den, whose name I've forgotten, she says, well, how would they survive in the glowing sea because it's so radioactive? So we'll head over there just directly and we'll find out. Yeah, so this is what he did. As you can see, this is Brian, big and green. Yeah. I didn't know you could smell things, Nick. Okay. Anyway, yep. So Brian turned himself into a super mutant on purpose, and it was pretty effective. So, you know, he's safe from the radiation out here, and it's going to be very difficult for anybody to follow him unless they happen to be the protagonist of the game. And he... Obviously, you need to come and see him. He is essential because you need to... you get his help to get into the Institute, and he's still pretty intelligent and things, even if his fine motor control has gone to shit, as he says. But you need the teleporter, so you need his help, and he basically demands that you... why are you following me, Protectron? Go away. Yeah, so Brian demands that you go and fetch something for him from the Institute when you get there. So he wants you to get the serum that he was working on in the old FEV lab. So it's a possible cure, at least for himself, that's going to reverse all the changes that the FEV virus has done to him. And obviously, this deal... turn it off if you don't mind. So this deal is heavily in your favour rather than his favour, because you can't get the serum for him if he doesn't help you get into the Institute and make sure that the teleporter works and doesn't just vaporise you. So, you know, for him to get what he wants, he has to make sure that you get what you want. So it's a deal that is very much skewed in your favour, and he can't really force you to return it to him. He's just got to trust that you're going to honour that deal. So it's entirely possible that you go into the Institute, do what you want, and you can just never come back here and leave him to his fate. Or you can come back and kill him, which the Brotherhood do ask you to do at one point, actually. Did that Protectron just teleport? Seriously? Interesting. So, you do have that option. If you take too long, I believe, to return after getting the serum from the Institute, then you will turn hostile. Or if you go in, deal with the Institute and you destroy the Institute before you get the serum, which means obviously it's been blown up along with everything else in the Institute, then in that case he also will be understandably very angry about that, you know. But if you do bring him the serum, he's really quite happy about it because it's good to go. So I've just loaded into another save after we have given Brian Virgil the serum. So this is Brian in his human self, more or less. So when you bring him the serum, he's pretty happy because it's apparently good to go. I have no idea how he actually knows this, because he talks about how you can see the transcript of exon strands, recombinant counter intron sequences, and matured retroviruses. So the glasses that he was wearing as a super mutant must actually be secretly electron microscopes. For context, I did do work experience in a retrovirus research lab studying the genome of the feline immunodeficiency virus, FEV. So for context, a retrovirus is about 100 nanometers in size, and the smallest particle that is visible to the naked human eye is 100,000 nanometers. Exons and introns are sections of DNA, which is measured in nucleotides, which are tiny. So how you can see all this just by looking at the vial, I have no idea. It's something that has bugged the life out of me for nearly a decade, because it's just bizarre that he can just look at this vial as a super mutant and say, yeah, the DNA looks great, the virus looks great. I don't know how you can see that, you know, without an electron microscope or something. But anyway, if we wait a few days and check back, Brian here is back to his old self, more or less. He says it's not perfect because he has retained some of his muscle mass and he's regrown his hair, so presumably before he transformed into a mutant he had lost his hair and then it grew back. So yeah, interesting. And given what some people do spend on preventing and treating hair loss, there's definitely worse side effects to things than your hair growing back. But yeah, he's obviously essential to the main plot of Fallout 4 up to a point until you can get access to the Institute. But I do think he's very interesting. You know, we see that most of the Institute scientists just don't really care about what they're doing and how it might affect the people that are just fighting for survival on the surface. That, you know, they're just creating these mutants and dumping them out into the world, where they have to know fine well that these mutants are attacking, kidnapping, killing people, but at least one of them has a bit of humanity left, even though he did become a super mutant. Although you can see at this point, this is after the Institute was destroyed, so he's like, yeah, the signal's not coming in anymore, something's happened. And he's got his gun out because he's not very happy about you blowing up the Institute because he thinks that innocent people would have been killed. He's probably not wrong about that, but we're not really going to get into that conversation with Brian right now because it's not going to achieve anything. But that's the kind of story of Brian Virgil. So one of the few Institute scientists who actually grew a conscience and grew a backbone and said, no, I'm not doing this, it's not right. and took matters into his own hands in a suitably dramatic manner, let's say. But yeah, it's interesting, and it is one of these things that, you know, the Brotherhood can send you to kill him, and if you've given him the serum so that he's human again, you can say, yeah, he's not a threat, he's not a super mutant anymore, and, you know, you can kind of convince them to just leave him be. Obviously, your other option is that you could just go and leave him be and leave him to do whatever he's going to do for the rest of his life. Yeah, so it's an interesting one, and I think the fact that, you know, we've got again another subset of super mutants that are distinct from both the Mariposa mutants, the Master's Army, and the Vault 87 mutants from the Capital Wasteland. The ones that the Institute have been creating are different again, so come back on Saturday, and the video covering the science side of things and what exactly the Institute was doing and why they started the project and everything. We're going to get into all of that on Saturday in that video, so hopefully you'll come back for that. And I'll see you next time. Bye.